If you think you understand what is happening in the Iran war, if you think this is a story about the United States striking a rogue nation and winning decisively, then buckle up right now, because what analysts at CNN, the Chicago Tribune, the New Republic, and some of the most respected foreign policy minds in the world are saying today is something that the White House desperately does not want the American public to sit with, something that cuts through every press conference and every Truth Social post and every declaration of victory. And it starts with a comparison that is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. They are saying that Donald Trump is having his Putin moment. And before we go any deeper into what that means, why the comparison is so precise, what it tells you about where this war is actually heading, why Russia is emerging as the first winner of a war that American troops are dying in, and why the man in the White House cannot explain how it ends, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell. Because what is being written about this war today in the most credible publications in America is the story that changes how you see everything that has happened in the last 17 days. So let us go back to February 24th, 2022, because that is where this comparison begins. And the parallel is exact in ways that should alarm every American who is paying attention. On that morning, Vladimir Putin launched what he told his generals, his cabinet, and his public would be a swift surgical military operation that would achieve its political objectives in days, that would decapitate the Ukrainian government, install a friendly administration in Kiev, and be over before the world had time to organize a serious response. And Putin was confident, publicly confident, because Russia had the most powerful military in Eastern Europe, because Ukraine's armed forces were smaller and older and less equipped, and because the operation had been planned in detail by people who were certain they understood what they were doing. Putin was wrong about every single one of those assumptions, and the war that was supposed to last 3 days is now in its 5th year with no end in sight, with Russia having lost more men than the Soviet Union lost in Afghanistan, with the Ukrainian people having demonstrated a commitment to defending their homeland that no intelligence assessment had adequately predicted, and with Putin trapped in a conflict he cannot win outright and cannot exit without losing face. Now listen to what CNN's senior international correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh wrote today, because these are not the words of a partisan commentator or an opposition politician. These are the words of one of the most experienced war reporters in the world who has covered every major conflict of the last 20 years. He wrote that Trump is now caught in the oldest trap of modern warfare, believing a swift surgical military operation will yield quick, enduring political results. The Soviets did it in Afghanistan. The United States did it in Iraq in 2003. Putin did it in Ukraine and is still fighting. And whatever force a military fails or succeeds in applying at the start, the people it is attacking have greater commitment to defending their lands and homes. Trump declared victory after 12 days that he has not yet earned or seen accepted by his adversary 12 days. Trump declared the Iran war effectively over after 12 days while the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, while 17 American service members are confirmed dead, while oil is trading above $100 a barrel, while 7 allied nations have publicly refused to send a single warship, and while Iran's new supreme leader says the strait will remain closed as a tool to pressure the enemy. Drop a comment below right now and tell me whether you think this war is over or whether you think the administration is telling Americans what it wants them to believe rather than what the intelligence actually shows. Because the gap between what Trump is saying publicly and what analysts are writing today is one of the widest I have seen in covering this conflict. And I want to know what you think. Here's the architecture of the miscalculation, because understanding how this happened tells you everything about where it goes from here. The White House launched Operation Epic Fury on February 28th with a specific theory of victory. A sufficiently intense and rapid series of strikes would kill or incapacitate Iran's supreme leader, shatter the IRGC's command structure, and produce a political collapse inside Iran that would force the surviving leadership to accept a deal on American terms before the Iranian population could organize a coherent resistance. The theory was based on the Israeli intelligence assessment that Ali Khamenei was isolated, that his inner circle was fragile, that the IRGC was more dependent on his personal authority than on institutional resilience, and that decapitation would produce chaos rather than succession. Every single one of those assumptions was wrong. Khamenei was killed in the initial strikes as planned, but within 72 hours, Iran had named Mojtaba Khamenei, the supreme leader's son, as his successor in a succession that was smoother and faster than any Western intelligence assessment had projected, and Mojtaba immediately declared that the war would continue, that the Strait of Hormuz would remain closed, and that any country sending warships to reopen it would be considered a belligerent in the conflict. CNN's Analysis today noted that the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei on February 28th has caused as many problems as it has solved, and that there is no equivalent of a friendly opposition figure waiting in the wings for Trump to anoint, the way the administration had hoped, meaning the political objective of the operation, installing a leadership that would negotiate on American terms, has not been achieved, and the military means of achieving it are not obvious. Michael McFaul, who served as U.S. ambassador to Russia under President Obama and is one of the most respected scholars of authoritarian regimes in the world, wrote today that Trump's war in Iran looks to many around the world like Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine, both launched preemptively without support from the United Nations Security Council, NATO, or in Trump's case, the U.S. Congress, both based on intelligence assessments that overestimated the attacker's speed of victory and underestimated the defender's will to resist, and both producing economic consequences that the aggressor did not anticipate and cannot easily reverse. But here is the part that McFaul's analysis makes most devastating, and that goes beyond the military comparison, because the real winner of Trump's Iran war so far is not the United States, it is Vladimir Putin, and the evidence for this is not opinion, it is arithmetic. Oil prices above $100 a barrel are generating an extra $150 million per day in revenue for Moscow. According to analysts cited by McFaul, that is money Putin is using to build more weapons to kill more Ukrainians, while simultaneously the United States has used more than 1,000 PAC-3 missile interceptors in 17 days of the Iran war, more than Washington supplied to Kiev during the entire 4 years of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the likelihood that Ukraine will receive more of those interceptors in the near future has dramatically decreased because American stockpiles are being depleted in the Persian Gulf. Trump lifted sanctions on Russian oil companies to try to offset rising gas prices at home, meaning American consumers are paying more at the pump because of a war Trump started, while simultaneously Trump is removing the economic pressure on the country that his own intelligence officials confirmed is helping Iran target American soldiers in the Middle East. Senator Adam Schiff, a former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and a man who has been briefed on more classified intelligence than almost any other elected official in America, said this week in a matter-of-fact sort of way that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran to better attack and kill American troops. And that is not a partisan claim or a contested accusation. It is a statement from a senior official describing what U.S. intelligence has confirmed. And Trump's response to that confirmation, asked directly on Fox News whether he thought Putin was helping Iran, was to say, I think he might be helping them a little bit, yeah. And then to add, and he probably thinks we're helping Ukraine, right? Drawing a moral equivalence between Russian intelligence helping target American soldiers and American support for a democratic country defending itself against an illegal invasion. An equivalence that Newsweek described today as Trump making Putin's point for him. The Chicago Tribune analysis published this weekend captured where the administration is politically after 17 days in the clearest terms. In the 2 weeks since the U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iran, Trump increasingly has been knocked on his political heels. He has grown more agitated with news coverage and has failed to find a way to explain why he started the war or how he will end it that resonates with a public concerned by American deaths in the conflict, surging oil prices and dropping financial markets, and even some of his supporters are questioning his plan. Trump said Friday night, when asked about gas prices, you are going to see a very big decrease in the prices of gasoline, gas, anything having to do with energy as soon as this is ended. And the key phrase in that sentence is as soon as this is ended, because nobody in the administration, including Trump himself, can currently answer the question of when that is and on what terms. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday that Americans are feeling it right now and would for a few more weeks, and that time frame has been the administration's consistent position since the war began. A few more weeks, a few more days soon, and the strait reopens and prices fall and everything is fine. But 17 days in, 0 commercial vessels have passed through the Strait of Hormuz in the last 24 hours. No allied navy has committed a single warship, and Iran's new supreme leader says the closure is a feature of Iranian and strategy, not a temporary condition. Now, here is what this means for every American watching this, because this is not just a foreign policy story, and it is not just a story about geopolitics and military strategy. It is a story about the decisions being made in Washington right now that are directly affecting what you pay at the pump, what your retirement account is worth, and whether the young men and women serving in the United States military in Iraq and the Persian Gulf are going to come home. The S&P 500 has fallen 9% since February 14th. Americans are paying the highest gas prices since October 2023. The Federal Reserve is trapped between cutting rates to support a weakening economy and holding them to fight inflation that the war is actively making worse. And the administration's answer to all of this is that it will be over soon. Without being able to say when soon is or what victory looks like when it arrives, Putin started a war that was supposed to last 3 days and is now in year 5. The United States started a war that was supposed to last a few days and is now in day 17, with the strategic objective unachieved, the economic consequences accelerating, the Allied coalition non-existent, and the president unable to explain the exit. The analysts writing about Trump's Putin moment are not saying the comparison is perfect or that the outcomes will be identical. McFaul himself said he personally disagrees with the comparison in its most extreme form. But what they are saying is that the pattern of miscalculation, the certainty of swift victory, the underestimation of the adversary's resilience, the economic consequences that spiral beyond what the planners anticipated, and the political difficulty of admitting the gap between the declared victory and the actual situation on the ground. That pattern is the same. And the Americans who need to understand that most urgently are not in Washington. They are at gas stations and grocery stores and military family waiting rooms across the country. If this video told you something about where this war is actually heading, that the White House press conferences are not telling you, do me a favor right now and share it with someone who deserves to know the full picture. Because the analysts who are writing about Trump's Putin moment today are not doing it to score political points. They are doing it because they have watched this pattern before and they know how it ends. And the Americans who are paying for this war in gas prices and stock losses and in the lives of their sons and daughters deserve to understand what the pattern means. We will be right here covering every development as it happens. Stay tuned and stay informed.